Welcome to the 1000 Nights and 1 Night. Now, when it was the 91st night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when the infidels saw Luca ben Shamlat fall slain, they buffeted their faces and cried, Alas, and woe worth the day, and called upon the abbots of the monasteries and cried, Where be the crosses? So the religious offered up prayers, and the Christians all drew together against Sharrkan, and brandishing their scimitars and lances, rushed forward to the attack. Then army met army, and breast fell under hoof, while spear and sword ruled the day. And forearms and wrists grew weak, and the coursers seemed created without legs. Nor did the herald of war cease calling to fight, till arms were aweary, and day took flight, and night came on with darkest night. So the two hosts drew apart, whilst every brave staggered like a drunken knave. For that which was so much cut and thrust they strave, and the place was choked with the slain. Fell were the wounds, and the hurt knew not by whom they fell. Then Sharrkan joined his brother Zau-al-Makan, and the chamberlain, and the Wazir Dandan, and said to them, Verily, Allah hath opened a door for the infidels to fall. Praised be the Lord of the worlds, one and all. Replied Zau-al-Makan, Let us never cease to praise Allah for that He hath dispelled trouble from the Arab and the Ajam. Indeed, the folk, generation after generation, shall tell of thy daring do against the accursed Luca, the falsifier of the Evangel, of thy catching the throw spear in mid-flight, and how enemy of Allah among men thou didst smite. And thy fame shall endure until the end of time. Then Sharrkan said, Hark, O Grand Chamberlain and doughty Captain-A. And he answered, Adsum. Quoth Sharrkan, Take with thee the Wazir Dandan and 20,000 horse, and lead them 7 parsecs toward the sea, and force the march till ye shall have come near the shore, and there remain only 2 parsecs between thee and the foe. Then ambush ye in the hollows of the ground till ye hear the tumult of the infidels disembarking from their ships, and the war cry from every side strike your ear, and ye know that the sabres have begun labor between us and them. And whenso you see our troops falling back as if defeated, and all the infidels following them, as well those in front as those from the seaward and the tents, do ye still lie in wait for them. But as soon as you see the standard with the words, There is no God but the God, and Mohammed is God's apostle, on whom be salutation and salvation, then up with the green banner, and do your endeavor, and fall on their rear, and shout, Allahu Akbar! Allah is great! And circle round, that they may not interpose between the retreating army and the sea. He replied, To hear is to obey. And forthright they agreed upon this matter, and they went forth. Now the chamberlain took with himself the Wazir Dandan and 20,000 men, even as Sharrkan had commanded. As soon as dawned the morn, the troops sprung to horse, when they had donned their armor gear, and drawn the scimitar, and slung the spear. Then the Christians dispread themselves over hill and dale, and the ecclesias cried out, and all heads were bared, and those in the ships hoisted the cross in their mastheads, and began making for shore from every side, and landed their horses, and got them ready for fight and fray, whilst the sword blades glittered bright, and the javelins glanced like levin light on mail's shirt white, and all joined fight, and the grind mill of death whirled round, and ground those who fought from horse and aground. Heads from bodies flew, and tongues mute grew, and eyes no vision knew. Scimitars strave with utmost strain, and heads flew over the battle plain. Gallbladders clave, and wrists were shorn in twain. Steeds plashed in pools of gore, and beards were gripped right sore. The host of al-Islam called out, O the Prince of Mankind, be blessings and peace, and to the compassionate glory and praise, which ne'er shall cease for his boons which I increase. And the host of the infidels shouted, Glory to the cross and the belt, and the wine-press juice, and the wine-presser, and the priests, and the monks, and the festival of palms, and the metropolitan. Now Zau al-Makan and Sharrkan held back, and the troops gave way and feigned flight from before the enemy, while the infidel array pressed hard upon them, deeming them en route, and made ready to foin and hew. Then the mighty of the Moslems raised their voices, reciting the first verses of the chapter of the cow, whilst the dead were trampled under the hoofs of steeds. And the heralds of the Greeks cried out, "Ho, servants of the Messiah! Ho, people of the true faith! Ho, followers of the primate! Verily, divine grace upon you, ops! For see, the host of all Islam, like birds with broken wings, incline to elope. So turn ye not to them your backs, but let your swords cleave deep in their necks, and hold not your hands from them, else are ye outcasts from the Messiah, Mary's son, who spoke even when a cradled one." Now Aphrodon, king of Constantinople, deemed that the infidels were victorious, knowing not that this was but a clever stratagem of the Moslems, and sent to King Hardab of Rome congratulations on success, adding, "Availed us naught, but the holy mead of the Arch-Patriarch, whose fragrance exhaled from the beards and mustaches of the slaves of the cross near and far. And I swear, by the miracles of the Messiah, and by thy daughter Abrazah, the Nazarene, the Marilotter, and by the waters of baptism, that I will not leave upon the earth a single defender of all Islam. And to the bitter end I will carry out this plan." So the messenger betook himself with the address to King Hardab, whilst the infidels called to one another, saying, "Take we vengeance wreak for Lucca." And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 92nd night, she said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the infidels called to one another, saying, 'Take we vengeance wreak for Lucca,' while Hardab, king of Greece, cried out, 'Ho, to our revenge for Abrazah.' Thereupon King Zau al-Makan shouted, 'Ho, servants of the requiting king! Smite the children of denial and disobedience with the blanch of sword and the brown of spear.' So the Moslem returned to the infidels, and plied them with the keen-edged scimitar, whilst their herald cried aloud, 'Up, and at the foes of the faith, all ye who love the prophet elect, with hope of salvation on the day of fear, to win favor of the bountiful, the forgiving one. For verily the garden of paradise is under the shadow of swords.' And behold, Sharrkan and his men charged down upon the infidels, and cut off their retreat, and wheeled and tourneyed among the ranks, when lo, a knight of goodly presence opened a passage through the army of unbelievers, and circled hither and thither amongst the deniers, cutting and thrusting, and covering the ground with heads and trunks, so that the faithless feared him, and their necks bent under his lunge and hew. He was girt with 2 swords, his glances and his brand, and he was armed with 2 lances, one of bamboo cane, and the other his straight wand-like shape. And his flowing hair stood him instead of many warriors, even as saith the poet, "Laud not long hair, except it be dispread in 2-fold locks on day of fight and fray, or youth who bear his lance twixt flax and thigh, for many a whiskered knight to win the day." And as singeth another, "I say to him, what, while he slings his swords, for sword shall serve those like that sword like show. Says he, my saber looks for those I love, my sword for those whose sweets of love unknown." And Sharrkan saw him, and he said to him, "I conjure thee by the Koran and the attributes of the Compassionate One, O champion of the champions, tell me who thou art, for verily by thy deeds this day thou hast pleased the requiting king, whom one thing distracteth not from another, in that thou hast been discomforting the children of impiety, and in rebellion reveling." Then cried the cavalier to him, saying, Thou art he who madest brother covenant with me but yesterday. How quickly thou hast forgotten me. Thereupon he withdrew his mouth veil, so that what was hidden of his beauty was disclosed. And lo, it was none other but Zau al-Makan. Shah Khan rejoiced in his brother, save that he feared for him the rush of fighting, and the crush of braves a smiting. For two reasons: the first, his tender age and exposure to the evil eye, and the second, that his safety was to the kingdom the greater of the two overshadowing wings. So he said to him, O king, thou riskest thy life, so join thy steed to mine. In very sooth, I fear for thee from the foe, and better thou stint hazarding thyself forth of these squadrons, that we may shoot at the enemy thine unerring shaft. Quoth Zammakan, I desire to even thee in fray, and I will be not niggard of myself before thee in the melee. Then the host of all Islam, heaping itself upon the infidels, girt them on all sides, warred on them a right holy war, and brake the power of the children of impropriety, and pride, and store. But King Afridun sighed when he saw the evil wreck that had fallen on the Greek, and they turned their backs from fight, and addressed themselves to flight, making for the ships, when lo, there came out upon them from the sea coast another host, led by Minister Dandan, the champion who was wont to make champions bite the dust, to lay load on them with cut and thrust. Nor less came forth than the Emir Bahram, lord of the province of Sham, amid 20,000 horse doughty of arm, and the host of all Islam pressed them in front and on flank, and wrought them grievous harm. Then a body of the Moslems turned against those who in the ships remained, and perdition on them reigned till they threw themselves into the main, and they slew of them many slain, more than 100,000 noblemen. Nor was one of their champions, great or small, saved from bale and bane. Moreover, they took their ships, with all the money and treasure and cargo, save a score of keel, and the Moslems got that loot whose like was never gotten by gone years, nor was such cut and thrust ever heard of by men's ears. Now, amongst the booty were 50,000 horses, besides treasure and spoil past reckoning and arithmetic, whereat the Moslems rejoiced with an exceeding joy, for that Allah had given them victory and protection. Such was the case with them. But as regards the fugitive infidels, they soon reached Constantinople, whither the tidings preceded them that King Afridun had prevailed over the Moslems. So quoth the ancient dame Zat ad-Dawai, I know that my son Hardub, king of Rum, is no runagate, and that he feareth not the Islamitic host, but will restore the whole world to the Nazarene faith. Then she bade the great King Afridun give command that the city be decorated, and the people held festive high, and drank their wines drunkenly, and knew not the decrees of destiny. Now whilst they were in the midst of the rejoicing, behold, the raven of dule and downfall croaked over them, and up came the 20 fugitive ships, wherein was the king of Caesarea. So King Afridun, lord of Constantinople, met them on the seashore, and they told him all that had befallen them from the Moslems. And they wept sore, and groaned, and moaned, and rejoicing at will was turned into dismay for unheal. And they informed him concerning Luca, son of Shamlat, how calamity had betided him, and how death had shot him with his shaft. Thereat the horrors of doomsday rose upon King Afridun, and he knew that there was no making straight their crook. Then came up from them the sound of weeping and wailing. The city was full of men mourning, and the keeners were keening, and sighs and cries were heard from all sides. And when King Hardub of Greece met King Afridun, he told him the truth of the case, and how the flight of the Moslems was by way of stratagem and deceit, and said to him, Look not to see any of the army, save those who have already reached thee. When King Afridun heard these words, he fell down in a fainting fit, with his nose under his feet, and as soon as he revived, he exclaimed, "Surely the Messiah was wroth with them, that they caused the Moslems to prevail over them." Then came the arch-patriarch sadly to the king, who said to him, "O our father, annihilation hath overtaken our army, and the Messiah hath punished us." Replied the patriarch, "Grieve not, nor feel concern, for it cannot be but that one of you have sinned against the Messiah, and all have been punished for his offense. But now we will read prayers for you in the churches, that the Mohammedan host may be repelled from you." After which the old woman, Zat al-Dawai, came to Afridun and said to him, "O king, verily the Moslem hosts are many, and we shall never overcome them save by wile. Wherefore, I propose to work upon them by guile, and to repair to this army al-Islam. Haply, I may win my wish of their leaders, and slay their champion, even as I slew his father. If my stratagem succeed in this case, not one of the host he leads shall return to his native land, for all are strong, only because of him. But I desire to have some Christian dwellers of Syria, such as go out every month and year to sell their goods, that they may help me with this, for this they can do in carrying out our plan." Replied the king, "Be it so, whenever thou wilt." So she bade fetch 100 men, natives of Narjan in Sham, and the king asked them, "Have ye heard what hath befallen the Christians with the Moslems?" "Yes," answered they. And he rejoined, "Know ye that this woman hath devoted her life to the Messiah, and proposeth to go forth with you, disguised as monotheists and Mohammedans, to work out a device which shall profit us, and hinder the Moslems from us. Say then, are ye also willing to devote yourselves to the Anointed? And I will give you a quintal of gold. He of you who escapes shall have the money, and him of you who dieth will the Messiah reward." "O king," replied they, "we will devote our lives to the Messiah, and we will be thy sacrifice." Thereupon the old woman took all she required of aromatic roots, and placed them in water, which she boiled over the fire till the black essence of them was extracted. She waited till the decantation was cold, then dipped the corner of a long kerchief therein, and stained her face therewith. Moreover, she donned over her clothes a long gabardine with an embroidered border, and took in her hand a rosary, and afterwards went in to King Afridun, who knew her not, nor did any of his companions know her, till she discovered herself to them. And there was none in the assembly but who thanked and praised her for her cunning. And her son rejoiced and said, "May the Messiah never fail thee." Thereupon she took with her the Syrian Christians, and set out for the army of Baghdad. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased saying her permitted say. Now, when it was the 93rd night, she said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when King Afridun heard these words, he fell into a fainting fit with his nose under his feet. And as soon as he revived, fear flooded the scrotum below his belly, and he complained to the ancient dame Zat al-Dawai. Now this accursed old woman was a witch of the witches, past mistress in sorcery and deception, wanton and wily, debauched and deceptionist, with foul breath, red eyelids, yellow cheeks, dull brown face, eyes bleared, mangy body, hair grizzled, back humped, skin weathered with wan, and nostrils which ever ran. But she had studied the scriptures of al-Islam, and had made the pilgrimage to the holy house of Mecca, and all this that she might come to the knowledge of Mohammedan ordinances and the miraculous verses of the Quran. And she had professed Judaism in the holy city of Jerusalem for 2 years' space, that she might master the magic of men and demons, so that she was a plague of plagues, and a pest of pests, wrong-headed as to belief and to no religion leaf. Now, the chief reason of her sojourn was her son, King Hardab of Greece. was on account of the slave virgins at his court, for she was given to tribadism, and could not exist without sapphism, or she went mad. So if any damsel pleased her, she was wont to teach her the art of rubbing body parts using saffron till she fainted away from excess feelings. Whoso obeyed her, she was wont to favor, and made her son incline towards her. But whoso repelled her, she would contrive to destroy, and so she abode for a length of time. This was known to Marjna, and Rana, and Utra, the handmaids of Abrazah, and their princess loathed the old woman, and abhorred to lie with her, because of the rank smell of her armpits, the stench of her fizzles more fetid than carrion, and the roughness of her hide coarser than palm fiber. She was wont to bribe those who would rub body parts and jewels and instructions, but Abrazah held aloof from her, and sought refuge from the omnipotent, the omniscient, for by Allah right well wroth the poet, He thou who clovest low before the great, nor overloading lesser men dost blench, who glidest dross by Durham gathering, no odor scent disguises carrion stench. And now, to return to the story of her stratagem, and the woes of her working. Presently she departed, taking the chief Nazarenes with their host, and turned towards the army of the Moslems. Whereupon King Hardab went into King Aphrodon and said to him, O king, we have no need of the chief patriarch, nor of his prayers, but will consult my mother's counsel, and observe what she will do with her craft unending against the Moslem host. For these are marching with all their power. They will soon be upon us, and they will encircle us on all sides. When King Aphrodon heard this, terror took hold upon his heart, and he wrote letters without stay or delay to all the nations of Nazarenes, saying, It behoveth none of the Meserites or cross-knights to hold back, especially the folk of the strongholds and the forts, but let them all come to us, foot and horse, women and children, for the Moslem hosts already tread our soil. So haste ye, ere what we fear to us here appear. Thus much concerning them, but regarding the work of the old woman Zat al-Dawai, when she went forth from the city with her suite, she clad them in clothing of Moslem merchants, having provided herself with 100 mules carrying stuffs of Antioch, such as gold-woven satins, and royal brocades, and so forth. And she had taken a letter from King Aphrodon to the following effect. These be merchantmen from the land of Sham, who have been with us, so it besitteth none to do them harm or hindrance, nor take tax and tithe of them, till they reach their homes in safe places. For by merchants a country flourisheth, and these are no men of war, nor of ill faith. Then quoth the accursed Zat al-Dawai to those with her, Verily, I wish to work at a plot for the destruction of the Moslem. Replied thee, O Queen, command us whatso thou wilt. We are at thy disposal, and may the Messiah never disappoint thy dealings. Then she donned a gown of fine white wool, and rubbed her forehead till she made a great mark as of a scar, and anointed it with an ointment of her own fashion, so that it shone with prodigious sheen. Now the old hag was lean-bodied and hollow-eyed, and she bound her legs tightly round with cords just above her feet, till she drew near the Moslem camp, when she unwound them, leaving their mark deeply embedded in her ankles. Then she anointed the wheels with dragon's blood, and bade her companions beat her with a severe beating, and set her in a chest, and quoth, she said, Cry abroad the refrain of unity, nor fear for aught the damage. Replied they, How can we beat thee, who be our sovereign lady Zat al-Dawai, mother of the king we glory in? Then said she, We blame not, nor deal reproach to him who goeth to the jakes, and in need evil become good deed. When you have set me in the chest, take it, and make it one of the bales, and place it on the mule back, and fare forth with it, and the other goods through the Moslem camp, and fear ye no blame. And if any of the Moslems hinder you, Give up the mules and their lading, and betake yourself to the king Zal-al-Makan, and implore his protection, saying, We were in the land of the infidels, and they took nothing from us, but wrote us a passport that none shall do us hindrance, or work our mischance. If he ask you, What profit have ye of your property in the land of Rome? Answer him, We profit in the deliverance of a pious man, who had been bound down in an underground cell nigh 15 years, crying out for help, yet none helped him. Nay, the infidels tortured him night and day. We knew not this, but after we had tarried in Constantinople for some time, having sold our goods and bought others in their stead, we determined on and made ready for a return to our native land. We spent that night conversing about our journey, and when day broke, we saw figured upon the wall a human form, and as we drew nigh, behold, it moved and said, O Moslems, is there amongst you one who is minded to woo the favor of the Lord of the 3 worlds? How so? Asked we, and the figure answered, Know that Allah hath made me speak to you, to the intent that your faith be fortified, and that your belief be emboldened, and that you go forth of the country of the infidels, and repair to the Moslem host, for with them wanders the sword of the compassionate one of the age of the champions, King Sharrkan, by whom he shall conquer Constantinople town, and destroy the sect of Nazarene. And when you shall have journeyed these 3 days, you will find an hermitage, known as the hermitage of the ascetic Matrahina, and containing a cell. Visit it with pure intent, and contrive to arrive there by force of will, for therein is a religious from the holy city, Jerusalem, by name Abdullah, and he is one of the devoutest of mankind, endowed with the power of working saintly miracles, such as dispel doubts and obscurity. Certain of the monks seized him by fraud, and shut him up in the Suaturn, where he hath lain a long time. By his deliverance you will please the Lord of faithful men, for such release is better than fighting for the faith. Now when the ancient dame and those with her had agreed upon such words, she said, As soon as that which I impart shall reach the ears of King Sharrkan, say him further. Hearing this from the image, we knew that the holy man and Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. And so do I cease my tale for the day, until it be morrow.